Hi, I'm Mark Cullen, and welcome to Wheel and Cullen Nurseries. I'm delighted that you picked up a copy of this tape, one in the Complete Gardener series. In this volume, Dan Matheson joins me as we talk about garden furnishings, attracting birds to your garden, containers and growing plants in them, strawberry jars, drying flowers from your garden, water gardens, and cleaning up tools. Plus, we'll talk about additions to your landscape like sundials. So sit back and relax. And if you'd like more information, refer to the companion book that came with this video. And above all, have fun.
We've all heard the legend about the shoemaker who has no shoes for his kids, so it's always kind of fun to drop in on Mark the gardener and see what's happening in the garden.
You did drop in,
How are you?
Hi, just great. Thanks very much.
Just happened to drop in.
Yeah,
what do you got
really.
here?
What a surprise. But what I have here is a tray full of pansies. Aren't those absolutely gorgeous?
Very nice.
I
Very
want to
pretty.
remind our viewers this morning that this is a perfect time of year to get some color in your gardens with pansies, because these take a little bit of frost. You know that?
Yeah, they're tough, huh?
Yeah.
They're not
yeah.
pansies. I mean, compared to...
Was that a joke?
That's a joke. That's
Oh, okay.
that's
I didn't get it. For
gardening
a minute.
joke.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
All right,
I don't
that'll
think
add
I'll
some
use
color.
it, though. Do you mind? Down here, I want to just... so about the pansies, you can also get mums in the yard. You can put ranunculus in the yard, and they make a wonderful window box planting as well. Temporary. It's not going to flower forever, but between now and your annual flower planting time, which may be 6 weeks away in many parts of Canada, you can enjoy the ranunculus or the pansies full bloom right through until the end of May. It gets a little taller, it gets a few more blooms on it. The pansies, those will last right through until frost, heavy frost of September. But I wanted to spend a minute, Dan, talking about herbs. Here, for instance, is a planted up herb strawberry planter. And just for you, I left the tags in there.
He does that with the pansies, too,
Yeah,
by the way.
just rub that time and smell your fingers. Yeah, it's a test.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that lovely?
Wow.
What you've done is you've activated the oils, the essential oils in the plant. And this, of course, will mature into a massive greenery that you can have outside your kitchen door, and you can go out and snip away all summer long, adding this stuff to your
And you can put any
cooking.
herbs in there that you want?
Not any herbs, no. Like stay away from dill, which grows 3.5 feet tall, right? And you're going to harvest it for what? For the seeds, ultimately.
And this will get big, won't it?
Yeah, you know what that is. That's chive. So you're going to cut that back pretty aggressively.
It's the only vegetable I have that grows every year in my yard.
Is that right?
And it gets this big and this high.
Yeah, try rhubarb. It'll outlive you and me combined. By the way, I just want to make sure our viewers know what we've got here. That pencil and paper always come in handy. Remember, we've got 3 varieties of thyme in this strawberry planter. Up here,
I don't know that.
sage.
Oh, is it?
Give that a rub, smell your finger. Right. That's beauty. And down here we've got some oregano, which will also grow quite aggressively. This stuff, by the way, is not going to survive the winter in this strawberry planter, so I'm not going to leave it outdoors, and I'm not going to expect it to come back next spring. I'll replant it every spring with something fresh.
You know what I've done this past year? I've started cooking with fresh, well, not fresh, but oregano right out of the garden, dried, and then just crumble it in your food. And
what's it like?
Unbelievably good.
Yeah?
Yep.
That's great. There's a lot more to that, and someday we'll spend a couple hours on herbs. So there's the raw material, some individual plants that you can use to plant up your own strawberry jar. And you know what I'd like you to do? I'd like you to take this home with those herbs, and soon we'll be shooting in Dan's yard, and we'll see what kind of job you did without my guidance, all right? It's going to be entirely in your hands.
Now, you know what else we wanted to do today?
Yeah.
Besides herbs.
Yep.
It's the time of year when all those neat things are starting to pop up, and you're really starting to get excited about the color that's going to come out any moment.
Yeah, like what?
Like those bulbs over there.
Yeah, very good.
Why don't we
tulips. We've got tulips and daffodils. As a matter of fact, daffodils, tulips, crocus, hyacinths, they're coming up across Canada in gardens and, of course, in parks and recreation areas all over the place. So we've got some tulips here.
It's been windy today, by the way. Mark's not normally quite this messy.
No, the leaves are just blowing everywhere. So as they're coming up, the question is, what do you do with your bulbs? Can I make a suggestion? Can I make a suggestion?
Can you ignore these?
Yeah, do nothing. Just do nothing. Enjoy them. Dan, the point is this. You see, a bulb is nature's little miracle. Do you mind if I just give this pontificate for a minute about Holland bulbs that bloom in the spring? See, the purpose of the bulb is that it provides all the nutrition, all of the energy that the plant needs to bloom. But after it's bloomed, that's when you want to take care of that bulb. Make sure that the leaves exist on the plant after blooming until they turn yellow or begin to turn yellow. You see, The leaves are the food factory of the bulb, taking the energy of the sun, transporting it down little highways in the form of plant sugar to build up the bulb so that it'll bloom again next year. You've got some fertilizer there that you need. Just put a handful of that around each of the, and just spread it around a little bit, and that's all there is to it.
That's
you would do that, and remember, we're doing this too early. I just want to demonstrate how that's all you do, and you just keep going through the bed, and you do this after they blossom.
The reason we're here today is to talk about ponds. And these things are getting very popular.
Yes, they are. And they're not expensive either.
They can be cold, though.
Yeah, Uncle Tom didn't turn on the heater. You don't put heaters in ponds, you know that? Especially with gold. We've got goldfish, we've got plants, we've got a waterfront, with everything here. And what is this? Maybe 10 feet across? You know, a couple meters, maybe? And how deep? A little less than a foot.
Well, let's start with what you have to do to start up.
Okay.
You've got some kind of a liner here.
Well, first of all, before we get to the liner, Dan, where do you want to put a pond? Now, first of all, is it for plants? Is it for fish? Or is it for a fountain? Or all three, as in this case? In any case, unless it's just for a fountain, it's got to be in the sun.
You know, I didn't know there were fish in here. I might not have gotten in here by knowing there were fish.
Suckers, as a matter of fact.
They're hiding.
And there's also trapdoor snails, but we're going to get to that in a minute.
Sun is important.
Yeah, don't run away from me. It's sun. Number one, you've got to have sun, so choose a spot where there's lots of sun, especially if you're going to have plants. Otherwise, you end up with algae you wouldn't believe. Okay, next, dig a hole. Now, you've got to dig a hole at least 14 inches deep and backfill it with about 3-4 inches of sand.
Good. Yep.
You want to sink it in the ground, right? That's really the point. Dig down 14 inches. Now, if you're going to have a water lily, a hardy Canadian water lily, all right, you've got to dig down at least 2 feet, and that's why there's a hole over here by your left foot. You see that water lily growing back there?
Yeah.
To winterize this, all you have to do is leave it. Make sure that there's water here. It'll freeze right down to the bottom.
You don't have to take that.
You don't have to take it out. The tropical kind you have to take out. Store in the basement for the winter time. So if you're doing lilies, make sure that the hole is at least 2 feet deep, preferably even 3. For the rest of your water plants, a foot deep is just fine. Ultimately a foot deep, because you backfilled, right, with the sand. Now, down here, let's move a few rocks here, and we can shoot down on top of this plastic. This is a real heavy plastic material, Dan. Really heavy, specifically made for a pond liner. We took it up and underneath the sod. See, we separated the sod beneath the root zone, and we rolled it back by about a foot, and we slid underneath it the PCV material, all right? Then we rolled the sod back up on top of it, and we camouflaged the lip of the pond with these brook stones, okay? You can use whatever you like. You can use flagstone, anything. It's a nice natural look, but it camouflages the PCV material.
Some people even plant a lot of shrubbery or things that hang over to cover the lip.
Yeah, you can do that, but you want to see the pond after all, all right? If you're going to have water moving in your pond, that's great, but you can't have a lot of plants. That's why you'll find here, the plants are over in one corner, and the fountain feature is in the middle.
Why can't you have a lot of plants?
Because plants don't, you'll notice, in a fast-moving stream, there are very few plants growing, right?
That's true.
Maybe a little algae. That's about it. So they need nice, quiet water. And you wouldn't have the fountain going all the time in any case. It's here for company or for evenings or, you know, when you wanted just a nice, relaxing atmosphere.
No one's going to turn this on while we're here.
Maybe. Depends. Behave yourself.
Where's Uncle Tom?
The fish also don't like a lot of moving water. And they have to have at least that 2 feet of water, and they love the plants because the plants give them protection. One thing that you want to make sure you have are oxygenators, all right? You have to make sure that there's oxygen being pumped down into the water so that you don't get a big algae problem. 2 ways to deal with that. Number one, get the trapdoor snails, which eat up the algae as it's produced. And secondly, get water hyacinth, which in Florida is a weed. Grows everywhere. This stuff takes oxygen from the air, transports it down to its root zone and puts it in the water.
And it's just a floating plant,
It's just a floating plant. In fact, try putting this stuff in upside down. See, it just, every time it flips around. Another one is water lettuce, does the same thing. Put this in the water upside down. See, flips around. Don't you wish your kids did that? Save you a lot of training, wouldn't it?
Now,
we've got a couple of interesting plants. That's a papyrus. You know,
Chinese, biblical reference.
That's right. That Chinese made paper out of it. And here we've got a dwarf palm. This is an umbrella palm. And these are just 2 of a whole host of different plants that you can put in the water garden. You can go to the nursery garden center this weekend, check out what's available. You'll find at least a dozen different plants, all very different.
Sounds like the only hard part really is digging the hole. Time once again to grab our old pal Mark Collin and see what's happening in the world of horticulture. Today we're talking about plants you put in containers and they look gorgeous. And look at this thing.
Yeah, you like that?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, a friend of mine calls that lobelia. It's lobelia.
Lobelia, that's the little blue guys.
That's wonderful. You know, it doesn't matter where you live in Canada, you can have a hanging basket that looks like Victoria, British Columbia.
Well, this looks semi-tropical, this.
Yeah, that's right. And this, of course, impatiens, garden variety impatiens. And don't worry about the variety. There are accents and blitz and Canadiana. They all do really quite well in containers. So a pencil, piece of paper in order here. We're going to go through some plants that do well in containers. You'll want to keep those handy for next year. And we're going to talk about what to do with the containers you have planted now over the balance of the season, because we've got a couple of months left. Right?
Now this is what, a moss thing? A moss container?
Yeah, it's a moss container and it's filled with patio soil mix. It's a soilless mix, which means it won't.
No dirt.
No dirt.
I got that.
That means no weeds, no diseases, very
lovely.
few insects.
Now there's a lot of different ways you can do this thing, right?
Yeah, that's true, and that's just one. That's a real classic. I want to show you something else over here, though.
This guy's gorgeous.
Well, I don't know what you would call this, Dan, but I call this a begonia pillar. And this is something my brother...
I think the National Art Gallery could use something like this.
Yeah, they'd probably pay $1 million for it, wouldn't they? Never mind.
It's all begonias.
It's all begonias.
What's inside this?
Well, this is something my brother came up with, all right? He's a genius when it comes to sort of the technical side of gardening. And Peter took an old plumber's pipe, this is like a sewer's pipe, and it's a sewer
black
pipe,
kind of plastic pipe?
Black PCV material, an 8-inch pipe, and he drilled holes in it large enough to plant the transplants, about 2.5, 3 inches round, all right? Drill enough holes in there to place the plants after you've filled it with a soilless mix. The soilless mix is the important part. Once again, don't just take garden variety.
Why couldn't you put topsoil in there?
Well, because number one, it'll foster disease and insects, and you'll get weeds, and it'll hold the moisture too long. You need the water to percolate down from the top to the bottom, all right? Really, it's very, very easy to do. So you could do this on a smaller scale at your own home. All right?
All right. Now, you've got lots more to show me, right?
Lots more. I want to show you something really peculiar and special here at Cullen Gardens.
Well, that is very different looking.
You like that?
That's a very unique blend of flowers. What have we got there?
Well, you know the nasturtiums are the orange, and they're my very favorite. That's whirlybird, one of Peter's favorites as well, and behind it is
Wait a minute, which is whirlybird?
The whirlybird is the nasturtium. It's a variety of nasturtium, which flowers outside of the foliage. The problem I have in my own garden with nasturtiums is you get all this foliage and the blooms down there in behind it, but not with those things. Anyway, they're absolutely gorgeous.
That's just one of the gorgeous things.
Come on over here. A lot more to see.
This thing is spectacular here.
You like this?
Maybe we can get the camera to look way up. It's
that's right.
It's a chimney / two-story fireplace.
Well, that's right. It's a burned-down barn, actually, and it's what we call the ruins here at Cullen Gardens. At the top are some beautiful geraniums. These are balcon geraniums. It's spelt like balcony without the Y. All right? They're doing extremely well. Down here, some more geraniums with some petunias in combination, more balcon geraniums, and then this, Dan, you'll never guess what that is. That's a type of eucalyptus.
No way.
Yeah,
eucalyptus?
it is. Here, just smell it.
I thought maybe it'd be mint. Everything I'm supposed to smell smells like mint.
No, not this. Now,
I know what's important with plants in containers.
What?
They dry out very quickly.
That's right.
So you got to water them like crazy.
You really do. And also, if you're worried about them drying out to the extent that they'll actually be set back, when you plant, use that soilless mix. Ask for a patio soil mix when you're looking for the soil to plant them in next spring, because it holds moisture for so long.
Now, wait a minute. What if you don't do that? What if you've just dumped some garden soil in your containers?
Well,
how often do you have to water?
When it gets dry.
Which is every day.
Maybe not. Every 2 days. In a situation like this, every 2 days. Except sunshine and patience. Those things, every day, twice a day, you've got to water them. A couple other things you should do this time of year. Okay, you've got window boxes, hanging baskets in full bloom right now. You want to cut them back, all right? In fact, you could take, for instance, petunias like this and pinch them back just like that, Dan. Don't be afraid to take off 6, 8, 10 inches of the growth. And that forces the growth down into the bottom of the plant to thicken up and rebloom later in the season. It's not too late to
so
do
this
that.
protects the blooming all season long then?
Well, it encourages more, is
now,
really
do you
what
take
it
the
does.
whole plant down by that much, or
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
pull a few out?
No, the whole thing. In fact, you might even use shears. Aunt Charlotte would use shears to do the whole
You
bit.
mean you would take shears to this lovely wham?
If it was all petunias, yes, I would. Yeah.
Wow.
Also, fertilize with 20-20-20 every 10 days. All right? It used to be 2 weeks to 3 weeks at the beginning of the season. Your plants are so big, they're thirsty, they're hungry, they need a lot of fertilizer.
Every 10 days.
Yep, that's right.
I've been doing something wrong.
No, you
Thanks,
haven't.
Mark. Now, I don't know about your neighborhood, but in mine, you might have to pay $16, $17 to get one of these beautiful hanging baskets. But you know, you don't have to spend all that much money, at least not every year anyway. You can do this yourself at home, and our old buddy Mark Cullen's here to tell us exactly how it can be done. Now, Mark,
Dan?
you've got two. Hi, Mark. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
This is kind of the fancy way to do it.
This is a very fancy basket. You ever been to Victoria, Canada, BC?
I've been.
It's fabulous out there. If you go there, you notice on the main street of Victoria in the summertime, they've got these big moss baskets. They're called moss baskets because they're filled with sphagnum moss. Canadian sphagnum moss, usually from British Columbia.
Which you've
usually
kind of
from,
soaked in a bucket
Well,
here.
from all over the place. Doesn't matter where it's from. It's Canadian. You soak it in a bucket overnight or for an hour or two, all right? Use warm water. It'll suck it right up. And then you use that to stuff the frame. This is a metal
Now,
frame.
show us how you do that. I'll hold the
All
frame.
right,
if
you
like.
hold it, and we'll just take a little bit of this moss, and you just push it
Just
down
jam it in there, huh?
Just jam it in there. Yeah, I learned how to do this at Disney World because they make hundreds of these things every year, and Disney World is just littered with beautiful hanging baskets, and you fill them up with some ivy and some ivy geraniums, and they drape down 3-4 feet long, and they look great in any part of the country because it's a question of maintenance, not climate, that determines your success with these
Oh,
things.
maintenance. Remember that. 'cause
Yeah,
we'll
we're
get
going to
to
talk
that in a
about that in a second. You're darn right we are. I put begonias in there, by the way.
Okay, this is the fancy basket.
Yeah.
You can do it not
Yeah,
quite so fancy.
yeah. If you want to take the lazy man's route or lazy woman's route, then you just simply take a little cocoa mat and you drop it in there, and it's made out of coconut fiber from the coconut shell. Drop it in there, fill it up with patio mix soil. And it's important not to use potting soil and certainly not to use soil from the garden. You know why?
Yeah,
Why?
I know why. That's another mistake I made. It's too heavy.
Yeah. So he's made 2 mistakes in his life, folks. And that was the second one. So it's too heavy and also full of weed seeds and all kinds of insect problems. No, patio mix not only is inert, but it holds moisture. And that's a big problem with container growing, is that they dry out so fast.
Speaking of moisture,
Our
little silicone guys
Yeah,
again.
this is called soil moist, and that's exactly what it is. They're tiny little crystals, excuse me, that when you add water to them grow to 40 or 50 times their original size. And as the plant draws moisture, the roots of the plants draw moisture from this stuff, which you've mixed with your soil, right?
right?
Then they shrink back to their original size, and then on contact with moisture, they suck it right up again like a sponge.
Now, the
Soil
water is watering the plants and the plant's ability to go without water, and it dries out. That's one of the key things
Yeah.
that decides whether or not
Yeah.
you can put a plant in a basket, right?
Consistent, yeah. You got to be consistent with your watering. And there are plants that lend themselves to that kind of environment and plants that don't.
Like
this
a good
is,
old geranium.
This is not a good old geranium. This is a Balkan geranium. This is a very special geranium. Balkan is like balcony without the Y. Balkan geranium.
Oh, yes.
They were developed in Europe a few years ago, and they're absolutely stunning. Unfortunately, not in full color right now. But you know, when they mature, give it another 2-3 weeks. Fertilize with 20-20-20 every 10 days to 2 weeks. All your containers, all summer long. We're talking about annual flowers, right?
Right.
Whether you're growing impatiens, petunias, or geraniums.
And you fertilize so much because, as you can see, there's very little soil in there, really, right?
Well, there will be. We'll fill it with soil, but you know, they're exposed to the wind and to the sun, bakes down on them all day, and they dry right out.
Whoa!
All right, you want to talk about some other plants?
What can we put in the baskets?
Ivies. There's a whole family of ivies here. And all of them will die with the frost, so in most parts of Canada, it's the end of them come the fall. But they grow very aggressively through the summer. That's a vinca.
Vinca. Yeah.
Vinca ivy. This is a German ivy.
Oh, I know this guy. I grow this in the
What's
house.
that?
Spider plant.
Right, right. You've probably got one of
Same
those
one,
in your
right?
kitchen. Yeah, sure. Just start them. Take the little spider off the plant. Start it in the kitchen. Asparagus fern. And it's not a fern at all. It's not a. It's not
It's
a fern.
not an asparagus.
No, it's
Figure
not
that out.
asparagus either. It's pretty stupid, you know. I don't know who names these things. This is Miller's wife.
I'll grab this other tray.
This is called Miller's wife. Plectranthus. All right.
Now, these are old standbys here,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, they're old standbys, but they're new introductions. But I won't get into all the new varieties. I'll just mention this. Fibrous begonias are foolproof wherever you live, from Newfoundland right out to BC. Fibrous begonias in containers really produce great color. Very reliable, sun or shade, the best you can do.
And providing a little contrast.
Yeah, the Dusty Miller. Dusty Miller's just great, and it's a biennial, so it'll survive the winter in most parts of Canada and come back next year. Its real name is Senecchio.
Dusty Miller's better.
Yeah,
well, you know what we're going to do?
Indian tribe.
We're going to put this basket together, maybe in the weeks ahead, if it works out.
Yeah.
We'll let you see how it turned out. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
We're in Whitby, Ontario today at Cullen Gardens, and one of the really nifty things about being here, besides all these fantastic plants and wonderful color, some of the really unique effects that they do with plants.
Right.
And so our old pal Mark Cullen's here to explain topiary to us.
That's right.
Which is
You know that word.
Kissing bears. That's what
These are
topiary
kissing-
means?
Topiary is taking plants and training them to do some interesting things. You can have a zoo in your backyard, and you don't have to feed these things much. A little evergreen food, maybe.
No, but you need a bit of an eye for this, huh?
Well, that's true. This is where creative viewers can really have a lot of fun out in the yard or their balcony, and you don't just do it one way. But I'm going to explain this first of all.
Okay.
This is a native white cedar, and we've used it to create this illusion of two bears kissing.
One plant, two plants, three plants?
I think there's 2 plants in there.
Two plants.
There's 2
One
plants
per
in there.
bear?
One per bear, exactly, exactly. Now, this is a native plant. It's been around since long, when there were just native people in this country. But I don't think they did a lot of topiary back then. But you see, the point is, a wide variety of plant material lends itself to pruning like this into virtually any shape. A friend of mine has a CN tower in his backyard.
I'm not going to ask. I can see it from my backyard. Now wait, any cedar will do?
Any cedar will do. You can prune it any time. Make sure you use a sharp pair of pruners, and in time, you're going to become a real master with these things.
Well, maybe we should show the folks a few of the other things. These are just weird shapes. This guy looks like Oscar the Grouch to me. The one in the middle.
Actually, I'm not sure what you would call that, but a happy face. These are Mountbatten junipers. Mountbattens.
Now here's a real happy face.
That
right
is
over here.
That is a real happy face.
Can you swing by here? Look at this guy. Now what have we got here?
That's an old Japanese yew, and that plant is about 20 years old. If you've got a tired evergreen in your yard, rather than yank it out, have a little fun with it. Cut it back, encourage some new growth down near the middle of the plant, and begin to prune it into a shape that's fun.
You can't take an established plant and shape it like that, though, can you?
Yes, you can.
You have to start when it's
Yes, you can. No, you're saying, do you have to start it when it's young?
Like, for example, the yew here. This yew?
Yeah.
Could you take that yew and carve it all up right now?
And make a happy face. That's right. You could say before, after. Now, the difference might be 3 years. 3 years between. But in a gardener's life, 3 years is nothing, because gardeners live a long time.
What's this?
Right? This is another owl.
Oh, you need a little bit of distance to get the effect.
Yeah, that's right.
Mark's pretending he actually does all this.
Well, I did it once. When I was a teenager, I used to do this stuff for my dad, because this is my dad's dream come true, right? He's created a topiary garden, and my brother Peter has created an elephant here, not using an established evergreen, but using a wire frame stuffed with moss, sphagnum moss, and then planted with little transplants of English ivy. Yeah. Isn't that neat?
It's
now,
beautiful.
This can be done, Dan, in a question of months. 12 to 18 months, boom, the thing is done. Bob's your uncle. The other ones, they can take like 20 years.
This reminds me a little bit of those ceramic things you buy to take in the house.
Yeah, the chia pets.
Yeah, chia pets.
Very similar, only these ones last for a long, long time.
Oh, like a giraffe.
You like that?
Or a llama.
Or a llama,
or whatever you want it to be.
Oh, come on. I would call it a giraffe.
Over here, we've got some gorgeous little ducks.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yep.
This is fabulous.
This is fabulous, isn't it? Now, this is a wire frame, and we're going to show our viewers how you do this. Is it you? No, this is, this is a yew. Yes. It's a yew or taxus, sometimes T-A-X-U-X. And this particular variety is called Hills yew, all right? And we're still waiting for a beak on this baby. But it's coming.
It'll come.
It's taking a little time.
But a little bit of the frame kind of sticking out
That's right. We're going to show you the frame in just a moment.
Now, here's the whole
Here's another one. All right, we're up to 2 little ducks. All right, and we happen to have 4 of them. Now, there's something interesting happening here.
Something bad happened.
Yeah, that's called frost damage from the winter of '94.
Nothing you can do about that.
No, '93, '94 was a killer. You know, we had some real cold weather. So time will fill that in.
time will fill that in, Dan.
Now these ducks up here are different material.
That's right. What happened about 6 years ago was we lost the U, or the taxus, that made this duck. So my dad said, we'll make some U's faster using privet. So this is Amur River privet, all right?
Privet U.
It's a somewhat different texture, but it grows so much more quickly that you end up with what you want in the first place in less time.
And this is a very common hedge material. A lot of people that have hedges.
Yes, it is. And so you know already that it lends itself so well to trimming. Something I really want to show you is the work in progress.
Whoa, careful there, lad.
Tripping over a duck.
This is Mama Duck. She's a little bigger than the others.
This is Mama Duck, and this is the work in progress. You see, Dan?
Yeah.
That's, what do you call that? Reinforcing
That's corrugated.
rods.
Yeah, the steel rods.
Right. They use this in concrete, and they've welded this together to create the shape. Now, you could do it with virtually anything that's rigid that makes sense to you, all right? Get out there, and as the plant matures, you fill it in.
Or cedar.
Or cedar.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
We'll have to come back in a couple of years for this guy. Mark Cullen is making these stand here and hold these flowers for no apparent reason. I don't know why I have these
You expecting company?
hydrangea. These snowball, are they?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, these are hydrangea. And what I want to talk about this morning, Dan, is drying a lot of the flowers you have in your yard right now. A lot of parts of Canada have been hit with frost, even killing frost in some cases, just touched with frost in other cases. And in any case, there are still flowers out there. Some will take some frost, as you know, like these hydrangea. And so I want to offer some suggestions of how you can take these flowers and dry them so you can enjoy them all winter long. Hydrangea.
What do you do?
Well, the hydrangea you cut, as we have here, the ones that Dan's holding in his hands, and you place them in 1 inch of water, and let the water evaporate. And as time goes by, the plants will remain standing up, the heads won't fall over, and they'll dry on their own.
Why do you have to put them in water?
I don't know.
They'll dry anyway.
Dan, it works.
Okay.
It won't. No, actually,
one of those little mysteries
it's one
of
of those
life, huh?
mysteries of Mother Nature's world. Now, most flowers, as you probably know, you turn upside down. That's why I'm hanging on to all of these. For instance, larkspur, which are absolutely gorgeous in full bloom. You would take these, you would bundle them, as we have here, with a little bit of elastic and a paper clip, and just hang them. Here's the key.
Hang them this way?
Here's the key. That's upside down, isn't it? Perfect. That's perfect. You got it. Now,
They look upside down. They don't look right.
You don't leave them there. You don't
drying.
introduce these to your company upside down in your garage.
I got it. Okay, so
let
you
me
hang them
finish.
to dry them.
You put them where it's dark, where it's dry, where there's air circulation. That's good. But it can't be damp and it can't be light, all right?
So you put them where you keep the children, is that it?
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, where you
Got
keep
that.
your children. Now, after they've dried, it can take 2 days or 2 months, depends on the type of flower. Here's some, by the way, what you're hanging onto is larkspur.
Yeah, I was paying attention.
Right? This is a combination of gomphrena, they're the little globe flowers, which is another name for the same thing, and status. Easy, easy, easy to dry.
Same technique for all these, huh?
When was the last time your wife brought you some flowers? Never mind, don't answer that question. Listen, it doesn't matter when. Next time, get them just before they've blown and before they completely open, and dry them by hanging them upside down. Once again, a cool, dry place out of direct sunlight, all right? The sunlight will cause them to fade, so that's why you want to hold them upside down.
Still have some
Gomphrena, once again, that's an annual flower. You can grow that next year in your garden. And a perennial, really hardy, lunaria, named after the moon, as in lunar eclipse, all right? The reason why it's called lunaria is because it looks like the moon. It's also called money plant. It's a wonderful perennial plant. You can't stop this thing from growing in your garden once you've got it.
What color is it when it's alive?
When it's alive,
is it white
same
like
as that,
this?
white, yeah. Those are the seed pods. Hang them upside down in your garage. Now, before we leave you, herbs. Let's just hunker down here for a minute, all right, and talk about some of the herbs we've got growing here. We planted these together last spring on Canada M, and
We planted them.
Look what's happened to them.
They grew.
You planted them, and I did the talking, all right? Back here, some sage. Just simply get in and prune this stuff off like that, and once again...
Oh, boy, can you smell that? Just
Can't you? Yeah. Sage, we've got tarragon back here. Same thing. You might want to take a pair of hand pruners or scissors, kitchen scissors, out to the garden with you when you do this. Hyssop, and don't let them flower, okay, folks?
I know what this is.
What?
I read it's rosemary.
Yeah, he's right, folks. It's rosemary.
Don't let them flower.
That's right. Don't let them flower. If they start to flower like this hyssop is here, then just prune the flowers off. And because what you want, of course, and where the essential oils exist to the greatest extent, it's in the foliage, right? Now, here's one that I want you to pay special attention to down here. Chives. Now, I'll tell you why. Because you can't just hang this stuff upside down. It doesn't work. What you should do is chop it into fine little pieces, Dan, on a cutting board in the kitchen, and then put those little pieces about a teaspoon or tablespoon at a time into a plastic bag, one of those, you know, lock and seal jobs, and put it into the freezer. And as you need them, as you use chives throughout the winter, say to mix with, I don't know, how do you use chives? You're the cook in the group.
Well, with baked potatoes.
Perfect. Get them out when you're baking your baked potatoes.
Put them in a salad.
That's right. You do the same thing, by the way, with basil, which is an annual herb. And in some cases here, many of our viewers will still have basil out in the garden.
Italian food cooking.
It's Italian.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
it's wonderful. Yeah, chop them up, put them in plastic bags, put them in the freezer. Most others chop them, just as we have here, and hang them, as I said, to dry for the next couple of weeks, couple of months, depending on the type.
So you don't have to hang your herbs upside down.
Yes, you do.
No, I just checking. Make sure you're paying.
Yeah, right. Hi, and welcome back to my shop at Wheel and Cullen Nurseries, where I want to spend a few moments just talking about garden features. Things that you can add to your yard to add a little interest for both you, of course, and people that visit your yard from time to time. A simple thing like this solid bronze, handcrafted faucet. It's easy to install, and over the last few years, all sorts of different kinds have been introduced to the market, so they're accessible, easy to find at the garden center, more than likely near you. You can add these to your yard, and over time you'll find they gain this real lovely patina, which as you use it, adds even more interest to your yard. In addition, fountains. The flow of water is so restful any time of day. Just one tip, of course, if you're adding a fountain to your yard, that you put it in a sunny place where it will be less prone to algae. Now, if you do happen to get a little bit of algae in your fountain, then add one of the new biological or organic chemicals that you can add to the water. And this will help to bring the algae under control. The sophistication of the brand new submersible pumps that they use in fountains is far greater than it ever was. And so they tend to run year after year virtually trouble-free versus the pumps that we used about 20 years ago in the business. Garden lighting, another wonderful way to add interest to your yard and extend the usefulness of your yard into the evening hours. Low voltage lighting is renowned for its ease of installation. You can put this stuff into your garden just about anywhere that you'd enjoy seeing it, and you'll find that it installs fairly quickly, and it costs pennies to run over a period of weeks or months throughout the gardening season. A sundial, of course, not only adds interest as an ornament, but has special usefulness as well. These things actually tell the time, providing, of course, that there's some sun shining. A gargoyle, red hot on the market right now, and wind chimes, just do yourself a favor. If you'd like some wind chimes for the added interest, not only visually, but of course that lovely sound, don't put one near your bedroom window. During a cool evening in the summer, they can drive you absolutely mad if we get a high wind. Birdhouses and this lovely dovecote, another great way to add some interest to any corner of your yard. And benches like this one I'm sitting on right now, very, very popular right now. It's known as twig furniture, and not only is it accessible, in other words, you can find this material, finished material, benches like this and chairs and tables at a garden center, but you can actually learn how to do it. That is how to go out, make the cuttings, and create your own furniture by taking a course with one of the craftsmen in your community who is making this stuff. And believe me, from coast to coast, you'll find that there's probably a craftsman of this type of garden furniture just about anywhere you go. Garden furnishings, a great way to add interest to your yard for both you, your family, and the friends that visit from time to time.
This, by the way, is not a wildlife sanctuary. This is Mark Cullen's backyard. Mark's telling me just mere moments ago that he has blue jays in here all the time.
The real blue jays.
The real blue jays.
We have the
Robbie
real blue
Alomar and those guys. How do you attract them? I mean, how do you get so many to come out here?
Well, I'll tell you. The secret is in this stuff, Dan. This is the black oil sunflower seed. Look at this stuff. Now,
This is different from the striped sunflower seed, which you'd be familiar with. You used to eat them as a kid, remember?
And the real blue jays still do.
And the
other ones, anyway.
Yeah, maybe they do. The other real blue jays.
These are smaller than the...
They are, and they also have a lot more oil in them, which birds love, especially through the cold of winter. Birds need oil in order to survive, all right? The same way we do. I mean, really, it's carbohydrates, I guess. Anyway, I won't pretend to be a bird's dietitian. I just know it works. And not only that, but I'll tell you something else, too. If you ever have a problem with pigeons or mourning doves, it's the bird seed that you're using. Don't use the mixed stuff. I brought a bag along, but I don't use it myself because it's full of millet and cracked corn, which is cheap, very inexpensive. And when you buy cheap bird seed, you end up with tons of cracked corn all the time. You get, well, not cheap birds, but you get...
If you don't have mourning doves, you don't want them. That's, you talk about...
Or if you do have mourning doves,
this is
you want to stop using this stuff, all right, which has the black oil sunflower seed. You'll see some stripe, but it's very difficult to distinguish, but there are pieces of cracked corn in there. Really cheap stuff. It's a filler, really. And that's what the ground-feeding birds love. Now, if you want to track pheasants, that's fine. Put handfuls of this stuff out. They'll come along, they'll eat it. But if you laugh, people want pheasants in their yard, sure. But the point is this. To get rid of ground-feeding bird stand, you don't want to use anything other than just pure black oil sunflower seed, in my opinion. This is Disselfink Niger seed. All right, this is the feeder full of seed, and you've got a bag of seed that you'll use, of course, to fill this up. This is for finches. If you want goldfinches, nuthatches, chickadees, they absolutely love this stuff.
A couple of finches on the cover.
Yeah, that's right. Now, this stuff is actually almost addictive to birds, to small birds. And only small birds can eat it because it's put in a feeder with very small holes in it. All right?
Oh, this is the feeder itself.
This is the feeder itself. You just simply hang that.
Anywhere.
And away you go. Anywhere. You get the beautiful... Put it near a window, because they're small birds. You know, the nearer your kitchen window or your family room window, the better.
Now, we got a couple things here that are kind of fun.
Right.
That we can just hang almost anywhere, huh?
Right. I mentioned earlier black oil sunflower seeds, and the amount of oil in each seed being very special as far as birds are concerned, because their hearts are pumping away, trying to keep them warm. They need to have those carbohydrates once again. Suet, good, clean suet, with a mixture of birdseed in it, attracts a lot of different sort of birds right through the winter months. And it also helps them to vary their diet a little bit, too, because it's, well, you know, you laugh, but they're no different than us.
No, I know. We all like to have a little variety.
You can't eat bananas all day long every day of the week, right? Well, they can't eat the same thing every day all year long. They need a certain mix in their diet, and this helps provide them with it.
And what's this bell-shaped
with fat? And this is the Niger seed again for attracting finches to your garden, and small birds like chickadees in a bell shape. This is just sort of compressed together. And you just hang that out in the yard where the cats won't get it. And the squirrels. Want to talk about squirrels?
Well, you know, I thought it funny because a lot of us have this kind of a thing to keep squirrels away.
Yeah, but this one works. The secret behind this is not just the fact that it's nice and loose, all right? So any squirrel that wants to make contact with that and hope to get a foothold is going to lose it. I also grease the pole. Just use corn oil. Cooking oil does the job.
Okay, so we're going to go over
here. Let's go to the squirrel feeder.
Well, Mark, it doesn't look like there's anything too high-tech about this feeder up there.
No, says you.
It just works.
This little banquet facility works wonders. They come up here. This is the squirrels I'm talking about, of course. They come up here and they have a feast of some crack or corn. They crack it themselves because they just love working up here. And then sometimes I actually catch them sitting on that little chair there. They sit there and just like souvlaki.
Well, that helps keep the squirrels away. What about cats? Sometimes
yeah, I got a recipe for you. Want to keep cats anywhere from the garden? You take a quart of water and you throw it into a blender, a kitchen blender, with an onion, a whole onion, a tablespoon of garlic powder or a whole garlic bulb, not the clove, the whole bulb, all right? Then a teaspoon of Tabasco sauce. You like that, don't you? And you liquefy the whole thing and put it where it won't hurt any plants at all. It doesn't stain either. Okay. And, well,
you could go on pasta too, I guess. Huh?
For you.
What's this for?
This is a little window feeder. You know, you just sort of lick that side and stick it on the window, and you fill it up with a little bit of seed. Oh. And you'll get small birds, of course, right up to your kitchen window while you're doing the dishes.
Happy bird watching.
You too. Thanks.
Well, it is that time of the year now that you have You have nothing to do with this anymore, do you, Mark Cullen? Like, this is going to go away for the winter.
In the spring, you're going to use it. You want to make sure it's in good shape when you do.
This is yours. You brought this over to my garage, and frankly, this is all rusty.
It's disgusting, isn't it? That's because it's the pair I never use. But that's not the point. The point is it needs some attention this time of year. So you've got a little rust. Behind you there is a lovely little file, and I use these files all the time, and I'll tell you how.
On your tools?
I'll use them on my tools. Hang on to this one for me. You don't use a file on that. You'll use a file on a pair of head shears. You might call these grass shears, right?
Yes, clippers.
Right. Now, I'll use it first of all, I'll use it to just shave off a little bit of the gunk off the back, all right? Just like so. And you just keep doing that for a while until you get all the rust and all the gunk off. You get a lot of gunk from the green, you know, when you're pruning.
The organic material gets gunked.
That's good. Organic material is what it is. Then, to sharpen the blade itself, you get the cutting edge, which is the top half of the scissors, right? And you just want to do this. Make sure you've got a nice new file, a file that's got a bite, right? You know when it's biting. You can feel it biting in there.
This is the only part of the whole mechanism that actually cuts?
Yeah, well, you're hanging on to this end.
I thought you had to use that side too.
Oh, well, yes, and you will sharpen that as well. And by the way, just to finish this job, all right, I don't want to do this in too much of a hurry. You want to do the same thing here, and then you want to just give it 2 or 3 strokes this way to take the burr off. You're Canadian, you know what burr means.
That's how Scots talk.
Right, that's right.
You want me to hold that too?
Now, hold on to that for 1 minute.
No, wait, you said you didn't do the same thing with the little guy.
You don't. I'm going to get to that for a minute. Just hang on to that for a second. We're going to put a little bit of, what do you call this stuff?
Well, I call it WD-40.
Oil in a can, right. And of course, you do the other side. Hang them up. Now you just hang them up. You can leave them outdoors. That's all right. You want to do both sides?
Sure.
All right. Hang them up outside in your garage. That's fine. Don't let them get wet, of course, or they're going to get rusty, right? All right. With me so far? Let's take a look at those hand pruners that you've got there. And it's very important you get these sharpened up as well. For one, it's an excuse to lubricate and oil the pruner. And you just do that in a what do you call that?
You need an excuse to do that? I need a very good reason to do that.
Well, there you go. Isn't that the same thing?
What kind of stone is this?
This is, well, I call it a hone. Right? What would you call it?
Sure.
It's a stone. It's a stone, and it's been used quite a bit, as you can see. So you want to put oil on this, both sides, and put them together, and you might put this away inside. You might put it outside. Let's